Hi, good evening. So, once again, welcome to another event from TAmLI. And this we are doing with Wright State University. And today is Women's Day. So, we thought of doing something, like a theme based on women. So, what we picked on is women and STEM. So, Wright State University is here. Apoorv, why don't you give like a brief about yourself and the
Sure.
university?
So thanks a lot, Deepraj, first of all, for having us. So just a quick background. So I've been working in the overseas industry since 2014. So almost like 8 years and counting in the industry. And I do enjoy speaking to students, counseling them, mentoring them, making
Mhm.
sure, in case if we were not able to achieve certain goals, we hope that the students would. So that's what drives what I do. And for the last 3 years, I've been working for Wright State University as the recruitment advisor in India. So I
Mhm.
basically handle their end-to-end India marketing, digital campaigns, be it recruitment activities, so anything that is to do with India. And recently, I've also started, exploring the South Asia market, but that's like
Mhm.
pretty, interim sort of an thing
Mhm.
that we are doing for themselves. So yeah, in the overseas education for a while now, and hopefully I would be able to share some information that the students might find useful.
All right. Thank you so much, Apoorv. And like whoever is watching this, Apoorv is not only a colleague; he's also a very good friend. And this I invited him specially for this event because like I know how fluid our conversation is going to be. So the reason why he's here is to help students, to help TAmLI, and also like we are talking about women in STEM. So he's going to give us a few insights on STEM programs, especially which are specifically designed for women, keeping women in mind. So I think that's more about it. So what we're going to do is like run this interview in two phases. Part one, we're going to talk about the university first, and part two, what we're going to talk about is women in STEM. Okay. All right. So my first question to you now, as most Indian students are first-time travelers to the US, right? So what we want to know now, like sitting in India, is we want to know that about where you are located, how the place is, and things like that. So if you can give me, if you can tell me how the campus looks like, just give us a
Sure.
picture, and also tell us about Lake Campus. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
interested in these two campuses.
So, just to give you a little bit of an background of where the name comes from. So, Wright State University were named after Wright brothers, who were
Mm-hmm.
the pioneers, and they created the first successful airplane in the sense. And the place where they did it, right, it's a bicycle shop. So when I went to the US and when I visited Wright State University, I did went to see that small sort of a bicycle shop turned into a this museum, right? So it's a good, I would say, interesting pivot point. Like if we would say, for aviation as an industry. So that's where we derive our name, of Wright State University, to honor
Mm-hmm.
Wright brothers. Now, when I talk about location, so we are located in Dayton, Ohio, right? So I would say it's sort of an in college town, kind of in an environment. And if you see our positioning, we are not very far from some of the major towns like Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, right? So we are probably couple of miles away. So, and if you see from downtown Dayton, maybe a 15 to 20 minute drive would kind of expose you to the I would say downtown. So you are probably at a very huge campus. So the campus size is somewhere around I would say 600 or 680 acre, right? And it's spread
Mm-hmm.
across buildings. We have, I think, close to 23 buildings that are there on campus, and we provide kind of on campus housing to both international, domestic, both on grad and undergrad level. So it's a very warm atmosphere, because when you are going abroad, let's say if I think from an Indian perspective, right? When you want to go there, you are going, one, for the education, but second, you are also going for networking. Second,
Hmm.
you are also going for understanding how the American culture is, like what is
Hmm.
that American dream, why are so many students like looking forward to going abroad, right? And
Right.
given like today's women's like international day, so it's also important to understand how many women are there on campus, or what is driving the female population like across US, right? So we'll
Hmm.
talk about that, but just to give you an idea, so we are located in Midwest in Dayton, Ohio. Again, we are connected to all these major cities. Like, we are not very far. If you talk about other states, so Michigan is just like
Hmm.
sharing border with like Ohio again. And in terms of the intersection or the background of that city is that like two of the very important like highways, so Interstate 70 and Interstate
Hmm.
75, they kind of intersect at Dayton. So a lot
Oh.
of product launches like happen as a result of that. So what happens is, if there is a company and who wants to launch a product, they will first launch that product in Dayton. Let's see how the product does in Dayton. If the product does well in Dayton, then they will launch it across USA, because we
Hmm.
also represent the same I would say demographic distribution of how a US is as a whole country. So it's a
Oh.
launch pad for various products. So that's a background. And obviously we were once top in terms of number of patents that you would issue per capita square feet. So that's a
Hmm.
background about where Wright State is, what we do. And we being a public university, we are regulated, and we get like a lot of funding in the top in terms of research funding, in terms of assistantship. So we are also very cost friendly because of those scholarships that we provide.
Right, right. This is superb. This is wonderful. And just to tell you, like students, viewers, if you are watching, since you are hearing this, there is no difference between a public and a private university in the US. Okay, in terms of quality, in terms of like how the university functions as a whole, there is no difference. And I believe Apple seconds that, right? There is no difference between public and private university.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's an important point that you highlighted, because the perception sometimes is, Deepraj, that sometimes a private university might not be accredited and the public might be more recognized because of the background that we come from. But we
Mhm.
assure you that irrespective of which university you will study, if you are a smart student and you invest time and effort, your degree
Mhm.
obviously is going to be recognized, and there is no need to really worry about whether you are going to a private or a public. Just see which university makes sense for you.
Right, right. You did not tell us about Lake Campus.
Oh yes, sorry
Yeah.
about that. So Lake Campus is like I would say it's located in Saline, Ohio. It's a like relatively smaller campus. So just to give you an idea, if like on the main campus we're talking about maybe a 10,000 student, then maybe on Saline, Ohio we're talking about 1,000 students. So it's like kind of an branch campus, and it's like more on a countryside sort of an feel, and it's more I would say inclined or more oriented towards like domestic student. We are also very
Mm.
friendly in terms of like evening classes. So a lot of working professionals who are probably I would say are doing like full-time jobs, like take access to like ceiling courses. So obviously yes, there are certain courses that even an international student can take on that
Mm.
campus, but primarily we see among Indian students the interest is in the main campus, Dayton, Ohio, just because
Yeah.
of the kind of assistance that we get in terms of the career services. Because the community that we have around that campus, or the network that we have built, and the relationships that we share in terms of the local employers, and again in terms of career services, that essentially helps an international student when they are out there
Mm.
searching in the job market. So yeah, it's a beautiful campus, like no doubt
Mm.
about it. Like if I have to choose between the two, I'll definitely choose like because of the beauty. But again,
Uh,
for international student, they tend to incline more towards the main campus.
all right. Thanks so much, Apoorv. So, your university is 55 years old, right now, and the number of students from other countries, I think the number is 56, if I read it right.
Yeah,
That's
yes.
correct, right? So, now, what is the percentage-wise? What is the
Yeah.
size of your international population, and also give us the size of your Indian students on campus?
So generally, how it works is that like because each year that number keeps on like varying. But if I talk about let's say in a larger averages, so we strive to achieve like at least 10% of our student as our international body. So if you see the large size, like the fall 2021. So we were talking about probably like a 900 students that were in terms of international, close to 7.5, 8%, like this time because of COVID and stuff like that. And if you further
Mhm.
bifurcate international student, and again Indian students. So Indian students make majority of the international student on campus, like any other university in the US. So we make sure that they feel at home, right? So be it like
Mhm.
an Indian restaurant on campus, be it like celebrating Holi, Diwali, and again like whichever festivals that are there. So there is a ground that's like a football ground, but obviously Indian
Mhm.
students play cricket on it. So like we kind of allow those things like for our Indian students. So roughly I would say out of 900 students, we are talking about almost like 450 to 500 students like coming from India, like each year and being part of WSU. So yeah.
Do you have American students playing cricket as well?
Yeah, like so we do have like for example what happens is on a grad level generally you are very focused on the curriculum, the research part and all. So like
Uh-huh.
again, so they don't really stay on campus, so sometimes it's rare, but you would see like some tournament that's being organized. So that's when I also get some update via newsletter that they are
Uh-huh.
planning something like this month on a Sunday. And that's a like something big, because then they invite like all the other like so we have students from Nepal, we have students from Bangladesh, we have students like from again in terms of Nigeria, we have students from Ghana, we have some students from like Egypt. So
Uh-huh.
it's good to like kind of see them participate, and again vice versa, right? A lot of Indian students like they pick up like new sports once they are there. So that's
Mhm.
part of the community.
Interesting, interesting. So I would say, like your the campus sounds like a place where students can go and live on campus. Is that preferred, like by the university as well, right? So,
So how it is structured is like just so that everybody in terms of our audience understand. So when we talk about campus, so it's not like essentially how you would see probably an IIT Bombay like campus, that it's a gated community. So how it works is it's a campus where all the buildings are there, right? But among
Mhm.
those buildings there are also some of the private buildings that exist on campus itself. So essentially what is happening is you are staying on campus, but
Mhm.
you are paying like the living expenses that you will pay off campus housing, because
Uh,
just that the buildings are located on campus, but they are just not part of the Wright State academic building, the structure. So essentially it gives you that advantage, because as an international student you want to save money, right? If I were to go abroad, I would make sure that my living expenses are as low as I can be. So you can be like 5 minute walk away from WSU, stay technically on campus, but pay the fee that is of an off campus housing. So that's
off
how
campus.
they are structured. But obviously if you want to stay on campus, then there are dedicated buildings that you can obviously apply for and stay there as well. So yeah, both the
Mhm.
options are there.
Oh, okay, interesting, interesting. Okay, now Apoorv, for the next question, I have to read it out because there is so much of information on it. So WSU, Wright State University, offers
Sure.
160 majors at the UG level. Okay, 160 majors at the undergraduate level, 71 master's degree program, 8 doctoral programs. Now, you have a very massive offering. So, what are our Indian students doing on campus? So, what are they studying?
Yeah. No, so like again, like our aim is to obviously every year tap on to like a different, I would say, profile, or like that's essentially what we are trying to do also via these mediums, because we want to make sure that every Indian student, irrespective of where they are located, be it northeast, be it like Rajasthan, be it down south, doesn't really matter, right? As long
Mhm.
as they get the representation, they would be interested in going abroad, and they would have the tools to go abroad, right? So if I
Mhm.
answer your question, so obviously primarily like as every other university in the US, we also derive like a lot of engineering like focus. So a lot of the
Mhm.
students that come in from India will be focusing on engineering. But now what we are seeing is that in engineering there are multi like layers that are now opening up. So for example, we see all these news about like Elon Musk and Tesla and whatnot, right? So there is this
Mhm.
dedicated program that is MS in clean and renewable energy. So we are
Mhm.
now seeing Indian students taking like interest in that program. Then we also have something like a master's in material science and engineering. So we are seeing again mechanical engineering student who essentially do not want to stick to mechanical as a whole, but now
Mm.
want to focus on automobile as a sector, and in automobile they want to focus on material science. So they are doing something like a material science and engineering, right? Now if we talk about the women, right? So like they come up so many innovative like programs, so it's fun always interacting with them. So there would be, programs in biological sciences where we see a huge population of, Indian women applying. We also see program like,
Mm.
again biomedical engineering where we see. So definitely in, in the medical side of things. In computer science also we are seeing a huge interest of, like, women now participating in STEM fields. And if
Right.
you probably would talk about the percentage, it's like almost at par with, like, how like male candidates apply. So the data kind of speaks it for, itself. So it's broadly engineering. And
Uh-huh.
then beside engineering there is this another layer that is being developing because the world is becoming more digital. So there
Right.
is like something like we have masters in marketing analytics and business insight. So it's a
Mm.
program that is from a marketing analytics point. How does,
Mm.
you get push notification from companies like Amazon, companies like Flipkart? So how is
Mm.
this digital marketing being done, right? What is the, strategies behind it? So that marketing analytics program again is developing in business school. So that's another offering. And then third offering that is very popular is something very niche in terms of a school of medicine. So we have a Boonshoft School of Medicine,
Mm.
and they offer masters in pharmacology and
Right.
toxicology as a program, and masters in public health as well. So I would say in three buckets: one is engineering, one is business, and then
Mm.
third is like these niche programs in the medical field. So that's where we are seeing the interest in terms of Indian students.
Mm, interesting. Like the whole world is going, or like the student are more and more interested in doing computer science and other computing programs. So, what is happening at your university?
Yes.
Is
So
are these?
obviously that is the prime, I would say if you were talk about numbers or in terms of percentage split, right? So that definitely will make, like, a large part of the portfolio of students that are coming in. But what I also want to highlight there is that if you set aside that piece, right, even in terms of whatever is the remaining piece, there is a huge diversity that is picking up because now the trend is changing and there are students who are willing to. So or like we receive a lot of applications from a lot of mechanical engineers who are now interested in going into industrial engineering because they want to work as an
Right.
industrial engineer in the same company like Tesla rather than working as a software developer in Tesla. So the goal still stays Tesla, but they have figured out a way that they can also achieve it via industrial engineering. So that is the shift that we are seeing at least in these recent years.
Mm. Do you have more of graduate students or undergraduate students?
So we have, like,
From
obviously
India.
because we being
India.
a public university and there is a domestic, like, population that's huge on campus. So obviously in terms of international, if I would say it's more grad and, like, I would say relatively less undergrad. But if you see as an overall university number, obviously it would be more undergrad and like lower on the grad side because
Mm.
domestically we are very big on the undergrad side.
All right. Okay, so to tell the students once again, like Wright State University has 160 majors at the undergraduate level, 71 master's degree programs, and 8 doctoral programs. Okay.
Yes.
Um, Now, okay, so moving on to the next question. So we have touched upon it a little bit. We talked about community life at Wright State University. Now, when we talk about international students, can we just talk? Can we talk a little bit more on housing? How you have already told us there is housing. But tell me about transportation and things to do other than attend classes, jobs, careers, those likes.
Yes. So yeah, like as we talked about it, right? Like so we have a dedicated career services center, and I think now we have like two or three of them because business school recently opened up their own career services. So again, there are so many resources that are available in terms of an student, like how they leverage it is like something that depends upon an student, and that is a message that at least via these platform we want to echo because when you are
Mhm.
coming from an Indian education system, you are a little laid back in the sense that things will come to you, but in an American
Mhm.
education system things don't come to you, you go to the things, right? So essentially if there is a career service and they are organizing a seminar, you need to participate. If they are
Uh-huh.
organizing a resume critique workshop, you need to participate. It's not that they will ask you to participate, you yourself have to be proactive and do it. Now in terms of transportation, so we have like again a very I would say vast bus network. So once you
Mhm.
are on Wright State, you get like a Wright State ID, and that essentially kind of makes your bus travel and all very nominal. Sometimes if it's a monthly pass, it makes it like even for free for month. And like
Mhm.
it kind of connects like like it will go to downtown, it will connect to every major town. And in terms of the campus overall, right, so there are shuttles that are in place. And one very interesting thing that not many universities have, so I would like to talk about it, is because we are located in Ohio, Dayton. So like a lot of Indian students feel that it's going to be very cold in winters, right? Because it does snow, and like it can get brutal. But the good thing is that we have, I would say, one of the largest tunnel system in the US. So probably in the top five. So if you would go on YouTube and you'll search for Wright State University tunnel system, you will
Uh-huh.
see that we have a dedicated tunnel system that is centrally heated. So
Oh
out
my
of
God.
23 buildings, all 21 of those buildings are connected via the tunnel system. So technically, even if
Uh-huh.
you don't want to step outside in snow, you can attend all your classes without stepping, a single leg in snow. So it's all connected, it's all heated. You know, don't even need to wear like pullovers, right? So that's a
I
very
need to Google that.
unique. Yeah, so it's a very interesting stuff. And the first time I was there, I was lost. So there are
Uh-huh.
so many boards and direction, and you need to like really understand. Okay, you want to go to the library. Library is like probably the fourth left from like pivot number six, right? So yeah, it takes some time, but it's fun to and in terms of the weekend, right, like what can a student do on a weekend? So obviously, because we are located like at the center, as I said, in an interstate like 70 and 75 intersection. So you see Kings Island. If you Google Kings Island, it's like probably 10 times larger than like what we'll call probably an SL World or an water park in India. So it's a
Oh.
35 miles away, and it's one of the largest in Ohio, I think. And they have roller
Mhm.
coasters, they have all these amusement parks and adventure sport. Then you have like this whole Wright Pat, Air Force base,
Mhm.
and it also has Wright Pat like museum. So it will probably take you 3 days to complete it. If you want to really see the whole thing, it will take you 3 days. It's like
Uh-huh.
that big. So I went in there after 6 hours of like seeing all the planes, World War era one, World War era two. I was like, I
Uh-huh.
can't see more. Like after 6 hours, I just returned. So it's like you can go there, you can see Wright Brothers like bicycle shop, you can go to an
Mhm.
amusement park. You have breweries around, you have live gigs, you have backwaters in
Uh-huh.
downtown Dayton where a lot of events happen. We have a Nutter Center. So Nutter Center
Mhm.
kind of host because we are in uh, NCAA Division One. So we
Right.
host like basketball tournaments and again rugby tournaments, and we have dedicated sports team, sport events. I think today they have a play at Nutter Center. So I think some Broadway show. So
Uh-huh.
they keep on doing this stuff to make sure students are engaged.
So the university is very much connected to like whatever is happening around the city, around the state, around the whole country. I would say like probably there are many people who are coming into Dayton and like maybe doing fashion shows, maybe doing rock pop like concerts, rock concerts, all of that thing. Those things are happening,
Yeah.
right? So it's like seeing the world from Dayton. It's amazing. um, you know what? How? So you said the winters are a little harsh. So how is the summer like? Is it very
No,
pleasant?
summer would be at par with like how India is. Like obviously the temperature won't be that high. So you
Mhm.
get like probably like you don't really feel homesick. So if you
Mhm.
probably are in May to August, you will have bright sunshine. You would need like obviously a little bit of an air conditioning there. It can get hot. But again,
Uh-huh.
it's not as brutal as it would get in like probably a Delhi summers, or probably you'd say like a West Bengal like summers, so or a Chennai summer for that
Right.
matter.
Right.
But yeah, it does have like its fair bit of like sunshine. And in winters also, I would say probably it's like a 45-day period, or like probably
Mhm.
sometimes like 2 month period that can be a little harsh. But other than
Yeah.
that, it's like also a like a nice winter. Like so if you're probably on Christmas and all, you'll have a good feel about it. And then probably past Christmas, like somewhere around Jan and all, if the snowfall is too much, that's when it can get tricky. And that's why we have the tunnel system to make sure
Mhm.
the students don't face any issue. And we have a
Okay.
dedicated WSU campus police. So we have dedicatedly like so they can just call on any helpline, and the services like in less than a minute you'll find any support that you need.
Mhm. So a lot of Indian parents, like and family members, they are worried about like the kind of food my son or my daughter is going to have on campus. So when you were moving around, did you see all these Indian stores that were nearby, restaurants, maybe general stores?
No, so I was a bit surprised, like so on a pleasant side, because like when you go to a US, like when I traveled to the US the first time, my perception was that you are going to this English speaking country and you probably wouldn't see any Indian. But once you set foot on campus, right, you are surprised by the fact of how many Indians are there, how many people from South Asia are there, and what kind of
Mhm.
stores and restaurants are there on campus. Or you would see like just probably like 2 miles away from campus. So you would find like again you are finding pulses there, you are finding like poha there, you are finding like rice there. So I didn't really feel that there was like anything that was really lacking. In case like obviously in terms of price, you will see
Mhm.
that they'll probably charge you a bit higher for an Indian merchandise compared to how and what you will pay for that merchandise back in India, right? Because obviously
Right.
you would assume a burger and then fries would be cheaper in the US compared to how they are in India, right? So
Mhm.
that's where we are like positioned. So we have a Walmart, like that's not too far, like from our campus. Then we also have a
Mhm.
Mercer store. Then we also have, I think, like obviously Starbucks is there. Then there is also another coffee chain that I'm forgetting, but it's pretty
Mhm.
popular among the Wright State like Raider community. So I think Thrompton. What is their name? I think Thrompton or something. So yeah, you would find Indian restaurant, like you would find like French. You would find like all these cuisines. So I don't see food as an issue whatsoever, because a lot of also, if you see like our business school, it is named after Raj Soin. Raj Soin is
Right.
an NRI, right? So the
Yeah.
Dayton community is also like kind of have the roots of like a lot of Indians coming in and settling in Dayton. So a lot of them have
Mhm.
also opened Indian restaurant in Dayton. So
Mhm.
that's kind of community that's there.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good to me. I would definitely, right after this interview, I'm going to see that YouTube thing about that tunnels. I'm very interested.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's move on to part two. So, where we talk about women and STEM. So, I read that Wright State University offers 315 degree programs through 5 colleges and 2 schools. How many of these programs are STEM designated? Well, let's not give it a number, but like if you can tell
Yeah.
me like just a brief idea.
Yeah.
STEM
No, so
designated.
obviously STEM is like quite popular, and for those of you are joining in first time, probably hearing the word STEM, right? So it's just like not a fancy word; it's just an abbreviation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? So
Mhm.
that's what we in short call as STEM. So essentially, a course that is categorized in either a science or in, let's say, technology or in engineering or let's say in mathematics. So they generally would get a higher stay back period. So we call it like the STEM OPT and then optional practical training. So without going into much of an in detail, but what we are saying is that there are two types of program. One is a non-STEM program and one is a STEM program. And in STEM program, you tend to get like a relatively more stay back period in the US, right? So
Mhm.
if in non-STEM you stay for 12 months, in a STEM program you stay there for 36 months, right? So you get
Mhm.
additional 24-month STEM OPT, and that is the program that we are talking about. Now coming to the question at hand, right? So out of the program, I would say still approximately 30 to 40 programs on a graduate level will still be like STEM, and this number probably on an undergrad side is like way higher, probably double
Mhm.
it up like to probably say 80 to 100, like like programs that are STEM. and
Mhm.
and just to give you an idea of engineering being again engineering as an in the STEM E itself. So all programs that are engineering generally or traditionally are
Mhm.
STEM, right? So the mechanical, electrical, computer science, computer engineering, cybersecurity, material science, biomedical, you name it, right? Anything that's
Mhm.
engineering is going to be STEM. Like where the stuff happens a bit different is something like a marketing analytics. It's a blend
Right.
of business and marketing, but it is still
Mhm.
STEM. Sometimes,
Mhm.
for example, something like a neuroscience. So it's still
Mhm.
a blend of science and again I would say, but there is a decent amount of big data, statistics, or I would say dosage part that uses like a lot of data. So again, that
Mhm.
program is a STEM, right?
Mhm.
Again, if you see biomedical engineering, again engineering. So in that way there is a different variety of programs. So some program in even arts and sciences are STEM, engineering is altogether STEM, and then again
Mhm.
in business there are certain programs that are STEM. So that's how we are split across verticals.
Okay, thanks so much. Now, I think like this next question is a two-part question. Now, what are the what STEM programs are very popular in India, in the Indian market? And the second part is, amongst all those programs, which ones are the ones like women are specifically choosing to study at Wright State University?
Yeah. So, like again, we are very proud to say, talking about women on campus, right? So, even if you
Uh-huh.
see probably our fact sheet and again some of the data on a website, you will see, like almost like 55 to 60% of the population on campus is women, right? So
Uh-huh.
that's a big deal, and like we kind of pride ourselves in that accomplishment, because again, the more the women are involved in day-to-day operations, be it academics, be it business, be it any part of any spectra of like the world that we operate in, like we will obviously have a lot of ideas that will come in from a different perspective, and that is what we plan to obviously encourage, and we want to make sure that is the pattern that continues. Now,
Mhm.
talking about in terms of the popular programs, right? So again, as I said, engineering is very much in demand when it comes to in India and again at WSU. Now, if I break further engineering into pieces, so computer science is obviously going to be the most popular program that is
Okay.
in huge demand, and it's going to be
Mhm.
very competitive for again an Indian student to crack that program, because there are so many applications that come in. Then there is another program in terms of mechanical engineering. Then we also have something like an aerospace engineering. And then, as I
Mhm.
said, right, like there is also something like clean and renewable energy and industrial engineering, that we are seeing this new pockets emerge. So those
Mhm.
are some of the engineering programs that are popular. Computer science being a selective winner there. And in
Mhm.
another domain, like as good as probably computer science is that program of masters in pharmacology and toxicology that I was talking about, and that is the
Mhm.
program where a lot of women from India, from down south, again from Gujarat, from a lot of states in India are applying to this program, and that program being a STEM program, we are seeing
Mhm.
huge participation. And sometimes in that program, like we see a dominance of women in class. We'll see like 60 to 65% of women taking those courses, with like somewhere around 30 to 40% of students being male. So
Mhm.
that is one more very popular program, and I don't see many universities in the US offer something very niche in pharmacology and toxicology. So if you are
Mhm.
looking to explore that field, that's program for you, because it's not public admin, it's not public health. It is very
Okay.
niche, and it is focusing on pharmacology and toxicology. So those are the two programs: computer science and pharmacology and toxicology, top two, and then comes remaining engineering. And then finally, I will say last one would be marketing analytics, because it's a new program. It has capstone project, and it's adaptive to what the younger generation needs. They are
Ah,
talking about digital businesses. So that
right.
programs cater to that.
Okay, so to all the viewers, what I can do is, like I'll grab all this information from Apoorv, maybe, put it on the description. And also, I will ask you for your email address and phone number, Apoorv, so that I can put it on
Yep.
this thing,
Sure.
on the description. And maybe, like when students are looking at different programs, they can just have a look and maybe contact you and things like that. Okay.
Sure.
Well, thank you so much. And the percentage I looked up, when I was doing my research, it is 55.1% of the students enrolled in fall 2021 were women. So, it's the numbers are higher in at the university. So I would say the representation in India would be somewhat similar,
Yeah,
maybe 50
I
50.
would go as far as to say it's even better, because of that one program that we have. So sometimes like we have intakes where we will probably be on the I would say very close to like that 60% mark when we do our analysis in terms of women to men. So like again
Mhm.
in terms of overall body, you'll see somewhere around 55.1. But
Mhm.
sometimes from India, like we do see like the dominance of women, so we do touch like 58 to 59% at times. So yeah.
Wow, interesting, interesting. And Apoorv, do you go to schools and colleges for outreach programs? You do that, right?
Yes, so we do participate in outreach activities, and again, so that is like a particular part of my job description. So we have
Mhm.
obviously like been to Guwahati, like in terms of northeast. We
Mhm.
have been to, again in terms of Kozhikode on the down south. Like we have been to
Mhm.
Vishakhapatnam. We have been obviously
Mhm.
to Hyderabad. So in the sense, like obviously where our students are and where we see demand, and again we try to tap in different geographies, different market in India, and we want to increase obviously our reach and via these channels, right? And like thanks to you and like
Mhm.
the American library, we get these avenues like where we want like also the students to have an option of reaching out to us, right? Because sometimes we might not be reaching out to like every city or every town in India, because India being such a huge country. So wherever the approaches, we obviously try our best to make sure that we provide them the guidance.
All right. So, students, what I can, what you can also do is, like when you are in this video, and look at the description, you will find Approve's phone number and email address. If you want to organize a session for your school, your college, your university, maybe like he can do a virtual session, or he can be there in person as well. So, if you think like you want to reach out to Approve for information session, you can do that as well. All right. Okay, so the last question, and Apoorv, this is a little bit philosophical. So I would like you to share your ideas on how we, as higher ed professionals, can bring more women to STEM.
Yeah. No, so like obviously it's a hot topic, and obviously like the sooner we realize, and like I would probably say it in like probably a bit on a light note, but
Mhm.
deep down all men know that women are better than them, right? It's just the ego that kind of prevents us like from admitting that fact, right? So the sooner we admit to those facts, in the sense, because you on a lighter note, you need to make sure that the parity is there, right? Like, because there obviously would be like roles and responsibilities in life, and some
Mhm.
part like obviously a male gender has like some advantage over a female, where obviously a female gender would probably take an advantage over, like, so again that parity has to come in, and it's a long process, can't happen overnight. But as like somebody who is representing Wright State, or again as educational professional, like it starts from the grassroots. We talk about like providing equal opportunities to the women, right? And that's why
Mhm.
I'm like very passionate when I like speak to any like female gender in terms of what kind of programs that they can apply for, what kind of career services are there, like what kind of again flexibility that we provide on campus in case if they
Mhm.
are working, in case like let's say if somebody is a working professional, so what
Mhm.
are the outcomes that they can so it's more about giving them that platform. That's like in step one. And then in step two, in my opinion, is also to recognize like women in STEM, right? So like if you probably would see on Wright State University website, so industrial engineering, a big shout out to them. So they have been running like for almost like 3 weeks now, like a lot of newsletter and stuff on women in STEM. So they have all
Mhm.
these articles that they keep on posting, and the program director like keeps on sharing stuff on LinkedIn. So
Mhm.
they talk about how like a woman from India came in, studied industrial engineering, and is currently leading like a research and learning division of a particular company. So you need to
Mhm.
provide those success stories so that more women feel more comfortable, they feel more confident, and they also like strive to achieve that mark. So one part is recognition, second part
Mhm.
is giving them the platform, and then
Mhm.
obviously there is a part of what can we do as an institute, right? So that
Right.
brings us to probably like introducing something like a woman only scholarships, right?
Uh-huh.
Something that is reserved, so that it makes it like little more softer or little more accessible for the students to like then participate. So that's something that I'm currently working on, and probably
Mhm.
in another 6 months or so we might launch something that is specifically for women in
Oh.
STEM. And like again lastly I would say, talking about like the buck stops at the pay parity, right? So there is like a lot
Mhm.
of talks about how like sometimes a Indian cricket team like male gets paid
Mhm.
more than the Indian cricket team like female, right? So the
Mhm.
parity has to come in, right? Like at what stage it will come, it's a long debate, right? Because there are so many stakeholders that are like obviously little insecure about sharing that power. But I think eventually it will happen, and as long as we talk about it openly and we give them those platform, I think we don't need to do it for them, they will do it for themselves, right? So that's probably are my thoughts on women and again, what can we do, to really support them?
Thank you so much, Abu. That was amazing and excellent answer. Thank you so much. And with that, like I think we have come to the end of it. And thank you so much, Abu, for being part of it. And students, you'll get everything on the description. So I'm going to add a few things like phone number, email address, program links to programs like Pharma Talks and all of toxicology programs, engineering programs, all of that. I'm going to put it on the description. So follow those, and thank you for joining us today, and happy Women's Day to everyone.
Thanks a
Thank you.
lot. Thanks a lot, Deepraj, for having us. And thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. Hopefully, we'll be in touch again, and we'll be looking forward to, helping you in any way possible.
Thank you.